Now, I hate to say it, but the season 2 finale of Peacemaker kind of reminded me of the WandaVision era of comic book TV shows. We had someone who worked on the show promising that something crazy is gonna happen in the finale. There was crazy speculation and hype over what big cameo there's gonna be, and then people got disappointed when it didn't live up to the hype. But hey, at least we get a little upgrade because in WandaVision, we only got White Vision. Here we get Otis and, oh, that one government guy from that one scene from Superman. Big upgrade. Now I'm going to be going into spoilers for season 2, episode 8 of Peacemaker titled Full Nelson. And just some overall quick thoughts. I'm not sure if this really worked as a finale for me. This episode does have some great moments, don't get me wrong, especially later with some emotional scenes with Danielle Brooks. But overall, this definitely felt like a filler episode to me, something you would see as a episode 2 or 3 of a season. Or I guess a better way to put it is this kind of felt like a disjointed episode. Like, yeah, the stuff at the end with the 11th Street kids trying to get Chris to stay does feel like something you would see at the end of a season, but all that stuff with Argus exploring other universes and honestly the formation of Checkmate kind of felt like something you'd see early on in a season. It's just like all the plot points didn't really mesh well for me in this episode. This episode definitely feels like it's setting up more than it's resolving. We absolutely dropped the Earth X plotline, which is kind of insane to me. I honestly feel like we got blueballed with Earth X because we barely scratched the surface of it. The only places we really saw in that universe were Peacemaker's house, Earth X Argus, and a park. I don't watch the sneak peek trailers for the episode, so I definitely thought that in episode 7, it was setting up Keith to kind of be the main antagonist of episode 8 in the finale. It would bring it full circle with Peacemaker having to fight his brother again. And we'd have to see Chris make that choice again of do I kill my brother or is there a different way around it this time? But no, we don't get that. Instead, we have Peacemaker being left in a totally new alternate dimension by himself. I know James Gunn said that this ending, directly ties into Man of Tomorrow, and I do see what he means by that. The government building an off-world prison for metahumans seems like something Superman wouldn't be a fan of. But at the same time, Gunn has also said that he wants DC projects to, be self-contained, where you don't have to watch each and every project to keep up with the story. Normally a cliffhanger ending like this wouldn't really bother me if we're okay, this is what we're setting up for season 3. But by the way everyone is acting, it sounds like they don't know if there is going to be a season 3. James has said these characters will pop up again soon, and I do expect them to pop up in that Amanda Waller show whenever they get around to making it. But by the looks of it, it seems like if we want to find out what happens to Peacemaker, we're going to have to find out in Man of Tomorrow. Also, James, aren't you the head of DC Studios? Can't you just make a season 3 happen? I really don't know where else we would have the time to deal with a Keith revenge story. But let's kind of go back to the beginning. So we see that Argus has started exploring the QUC, checking all of the doors. I feel like we're missing a scene before this though. All these characters like Judo Master, Hardcore, and Economos just had a terrible time going through the portal. You'd think they would be a little hesitant of just going back in there and checking random doors. We could have had a little scene where Hardcore says to Rick Flag oh, we saw how dangerous it is in there, you don't want to go in there. And Rick Flag is oh, trust us, Argus knows what we're doing. If you want your job back, you'll do what I say. Nothing much, just something small kind of explaining what's going on. But we see Argus go into different universes. We have that weird skull universe. We have the zombie universe. And then we have the Candyland world with all the perverted imps that Earth X Augie mentioned earlier this season.
You'll take that's bad. The next morning I was eating my Cheerios and there's something sticky in there. I think one of those little fuckers jacked off in there or something.
No. I guess there's just many different types of imps in the DCU now. We have the cute little killer critters, or we got big flying eyeball monsters. Sucks that Golden Boy got his face eaten off. I feel like we didn't really get a lot of him. But I love how Flurry is the most distraught. He talks so much shit on all his coworkers, but he truly does love them. But the whole time they're exploring, Rick Flag Sr. is hanging back with Luther's goons and is overacting a little bit in my opinion here. He's laughing like a cartoonish evil villain with a twirled mustache. Now this whole season we've been seeing that Rick Flag Sr. has wanted to get the portal technology, and we've all been speculating as to why. Some people have been speculating that it's to bring back a version of Rick Flag Jr., or maybe so they could find kryptonite on another world. But nope, it's pretty much the same plan as Lex Luthor's from Superman, where they're building a meta-human prison off-world. Now, I guess in hindsight, this was the most obvious reason to why Rick Flag Sr. would want the portal technology, but it's just, I don't know, it feels like we're doing the exact same thing, except oh, it's bigger and better this time. Oh no. I don't know. I just feel like we didn't need to wait to the last episode to find out this reason. Then we have Bordeaux, who I thought it was kind of funny with this character because during the whole exploration of the QUC, she's kind of looking at Rick Flag kind of agitated, almost like, why are you sending me in here to die? Then she finds out about the plans for a meta-human prison and she looks blindsided by this. And it does make sense that Flag would kind of keep this secret from her. He knows if he told her the truth, you know, she probably wouldn't let him hit no more. But then Bordeaux goes to Harcourt to tell him about the meta-human prison. And Harcourt's like, oh man, so you're betraying Rick Flag because he might put you in there? But then Bordeaux says, no, me being a meta-human doesn't matter. It's because all of our friends died all for a prison. And I'm like, oh, is that the reason you're upset? I honestly didn't even know you knew these agents' names. I didn't even know you had a conversation with them. I honestly didn't even know you had emotions. Like, it makes sense Fleury would be the one upset that these people died. He spent the most time with them and gave them all personal nicknames. I like Bordeaux's character this whole season, I do, but it's just I felt like something was just missing with her character. Now, I don't have any proof of this, but I feel like her being a cyborg was kind of a last-minute addition. It's really only ever brought up in 2 episodes, and I don't think we really see any of her cyborg abilities, except for the fact that she has a robot eye that helps her shoot, but I don't even think we saw her fire a gun. Her being a cyborg just really didn't do much for me. Oh, and we finally learn what happened on the boat now. I know the will they, won't they relationship between Harcourt and Peacemaker is kind of divisive between fans. I see people complain that the relationship wouldn't be really believable, but personally I really do love the dynamic between them and kind of wanted them to get together. Jennifer Holland does a phenomenal job of playing someone who is so broken that they genuinely feel like they can't open themselves up to love. We see she wants to love, but they're all in such a sticky gray area in their lives and she really doesn't know if love is possible. I don't know, maybe I'm just a simp, that's why I like it. But although I love the dynamic between them, I'm not sure I entirely love this boat scene. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like a lot of it, especially the way it's shot. I especially love that slow motion shot of them looking at each other. I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up loving the slow-mo guys and James Gunn said they used a similar camera. But man, I've rewatched this specific moment multiple times already. But we see it's a really intimate kiss and Harcourt, being how she is, closes herself off and leaves. I do think James Gunn kind of overcooked this scene. Like a lot of people, I don't think we needed a full-on concert here. You know, maybe like half the song, but definitely not the full thing. Especially since we get another full concert later on in the episode. But I do think there is a version of this show that works where we don't even see what happens on the boat. Because throughout the entire season, whenever somebody brings up the boat, we as an audience can we can easily infer that something romantic between them happened. It was pretty obvious. So I do think there is a way to kind of leave it up to our imagination on what exactly happened. But let's get back to present day. So after episode 7, Chris is put in prison and he won't allow any of his friends to see him. So Adebayo goes to convince Vigilante to use all of his blood money to get Chris bailed out of jail. And I do like this scene overall. I love how Adebayo knows exactly how to talk to Vigilante and get him to do what she wants. But man, am I upset how Vigilante was treated this season. In the first season, he was this psycho assassin who happened to be dumb, but this season he just went full on dumb. The only time we really see him do any vigilante action is when he kills the good version of Augie, and later in this episode when he tackles Peacemaker. So yeah, it kind of sucks when your favorite character gets demoted to background character, but they bail Chris out of jail, which is pretty crazy to me that Rick Flag would allow that to happen. You would think after all he's been through, he'd be like, oh, Peacemaker's too dangerous to be put on bail. But Chris's plan is to leave town, and that's when we get an unbelievable performance by Danielle Brooks. She's trying to convince Chris how much they love him and how much they need him, and they really want him to stay. James Gunn says that he wrote this speech thinking about his late father, and I think that makes it even more touching. I really love this scene, but this kind of reminded me of something we were missing for most of the season. What I loved about the first season is when the group was all together and, you know, kind of riffing off each other. But most of the season, they're split up doing their own thing. So Chris decides to stay, and then we get a montage of them forming their new group called Checkmate. Now, I'm not going to pretend I even know what Checkmate is, but it does seem like this is going to be a little different than what it is in the comics, because from what I understand, Checkmate is usually an extension of Task Force X led by Amanda Waller. but here it seems to be more of an anti-Task Force X kind of thing. We see Bordeaux, Judo Master, and even Flurry join the team, which I do like to see. You know, Flurry was my favorite standout character this season, and I love seeing his conversation with Vigilante. It makes me wish we saw even more of them together, you know, they make a perfect pair. I do wonder though, like, what the ramifications are for them for leaving Argus like that, because presumably Rick Flag Sr. knows where they are. It's not like they went off the grid or anything. They rented out a huge office in the middle of the city. Like, yeah, I'm happy they established checkmate and everything, but how much can they really do with Argus breathing down their neck? But this is supposed to be like the big climax of the season, and I don't know if I like this being the climax. The montage is played out to the intro song, Oh Lord by Foxy Shazam. And while I do love that these characters, you know, kind of get a nice heartwarming moment, but it is hard to watch this and then think back to the first season's finale when they played the intro song, but it was to a badass action scene. Like, I still go back and watch that scene sometimes because it's just so good. I'm not saying every DCU project needs to end with a big giant battle, but with Peacemaker specifically, I feel like James Gunn has kind of set the bar so high that it's hard to beat. It's just, I don't know, like I said at the beginning of the video, this kind of feels like something you would do earlier in the season. Now, James Gunn revealed that in the original script, the show ended right here. Like, they set up checkmate and that's it, it cuts to black. And if that happened, God, I think the internet would have fully turned on James Gunn. But we do get that final scene where Rick Flag Sr. kidnaps Peacemaker and traps him in the alternate dimension called Salvation. Again, I'm not going to pretend I read the Salvation comics, but from what other people have said, it's almost like Arkham City, where Amanda Waller was tired of all the prisoners breaking out, so they dumped all of them on an alternate world and said, good luck. Now, James Gunn has said that Salvation is going to play a big part of Man of Tomorrow, which has kind of thrown a wrench into people's predictions on what that movie is going to be about. The theory everyone pretty much agrees on is that Superman and Lex is going to have to team up and fight Brainiac. Now, Brainiac could still be the main villain, but I don't even think the most diehard DC fan could have guessed that Salvation would play a big part in it, especially since Salvation is apparently more associated with Darkseid. So I'm guessing Superman and Lex are gonna somehow get trapped in Salvation. And that means the next time we see Peacemaker will also be in Man of Tomorrow, which would mean Peacemaker technically was in both Superman movies because he made that cameo in the first one. Overall, I do like this scene, even though it does kind of undercut the whole montage of setting up checkmate, because we see Chris walk out all triumphantly with his friends, and literally 10 seconds later, he's handcuffed in the back of an Argus truck. But I don't know where else you would have put this scene, so I guess it's fine. And while I'm excited about Peacemaker being in a big budget movie again, I just kind of wish he had his costume with him. There's just something about the Peacemaker costume in the Suicide Squad that, I don't know, it makes me feel something again. Just looks saucier in the movie, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was Peacemaker Season 2. Overall, I really did like this season. It's just, I think Season 1 was kind of steady with its quality, and Season 2 was kind of like an up and down roller coaster. We had some real emotional highs, but then we also had some lows, especially in the middle of the season when the plot started to stagnate a little. Like, the whole Eagly and Michael Rooker thing was a funny little side story, but it didn't really have an impact on what we were doing this season. Next up in the DCU, we have Lanterns. Now, this is going to be the first real test on what the overall vibe of the DCU is going to be, because the only things we've gotten so far are 3 projects by James Gunn, which are semi-connected to another movie by James Gunn. Now, I'm curious because Lanterns is supposedly going to be a true detective style show where they have to solve a mystery. Now, I'm wondering if that mystery is going to be related to Salvation. Like, maybe some D-tier metahumans start disappearing and, you know, they have to find out where they're all going. I think that could be interesting. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you've seen the Peacemaker finale, my question for you is, did you think this finale was a satisfying conclusion, or were you kind of let down by it? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.